All right, everybody, welcome back to the Dark Matter Radio Network and PSN Radio's Skywatchers Radio. Again, this is Angel and Alan and our guest of the evening, and his name is Larry, and your last name, how do you pronounce it, sir? Because I know I butchered it.
Cekander.
Cekander! I was so far away from that.
Yeah, just the way it looks, Cekander.
This is why we always tell Angel don't quit his day job.
No, that's why this is my night job, folks. Larry, it's a pleasure to have you on Skywatchers Radio, man. This is a few weeks in the making. I know we've had to kind of move around a little bit and make a perfect date to have you on. But love the stuff you send me. The links have been very, very interesting stuff. Like me and Alan were talking about before the show. This could be a game changer, man. Like if this could be verified to be legit. On an extraterrestrial artifact, this could change the entire platform of everything. Now, for the listeners listening in who don't know the backstory to this thing, because we don't like to tell the backstory, because then what's the use of having the guest on, right? So we're very vague early on. We say, hey, he's got good stuff. Now, when you listen, I want them to listen to you and tell your story. Tell us the backstory of how you came to the possession of this artifact, and what exactly is the artifact as we know it right now.
Okay. In 1996, I retired, or semi-retired, moved down to Missouri, and near Branson on Table Rock Lake, and I met a guy by the name of Bob White. He's wanting to buy a boat from me. I was in the boat business, and I had a used boat, and he's wanting to buy a boat, and I was wanting to sell one, and he wanted to trade. We was doing a little hustling around. He never bought the boat. He used my boat forever, and we become great friends. I had seen his show on History Channel with Stan Freeman. Over the Roswell deal that he had broken. Okay. And I was really impressed about that show, and I really didn't think a lot about UFOs, aliens, or anything else, My big concern is how big was the catfish out of the lake that I was going to catch. That was what I was worried about.
So you were never into the subject, just to clear that up, you were never really into UFOs, ufology, aliens, that wasn't like your thing?
No, not my thing, I'm a pretty basic redneck son of a gun and running around and what you see, what you get. If I say something, that's pretty much what I think. And I never really thought about aliens or UFOs or any of that kind of stuff. And like I said, I'd seen the show on History Channel with Friedman. So the next morning, me and Bob always ate breakfast together in the mornings. I'm down at the restaurant, and I'm sitting there. Hey, Bob, I said, boy, you should have seen this show I seen last night with aliens and bodies and spacecraft and all kinds of stuff. He's sitting there stuffing his face full of food. He said, hell, that ain't nothing. I got a piece of one over at the house. I'm saying, yeah, Bob, right. You got a piece of a UFO at your house. He said, yeah, I got it in the closet. Well, hell, that's where
doesn't everybody in the South? I don't know.
That's where I keep my piece of UFOs in the closet.
Yeah, I got an alien head in my closet.
This sounds like a great deal to me. So anyway, after breakfast, I said, man, I don't want to see this. I know this, you're yanking my chain. So I go over to the house. He goes there in the back bedroom, comes out, carrying a gun case. I said, okay, well, he has gone over the edge, and now he's going to shoot me. Anyway, he opens this thing out.
There's horror movies that start this way, by the way.
Yeah, the
Larry,
horror movie starts like this. It's quiet, and a real quiet, white-haired guy with a beard.
Yeah, I'm hearing the Jaws theme in the background,
Yeah, I hear the Jaws theme, right. He pulls this gun case out, unzips it, and he pulls out this object. And it looks to me like a teardrop or a pine cone.
Okay.
Only it was metal, and I knew, because of my background in mechanics and metallurgy and stuff over the last 40, 50 years, doing master mechanic, and I'd done high-performance work on engines. I knew this was an alloy aluminum of some sort as soon as I saw it. But the layering on the outside is what I couldn't figure out.
Okay, now I got to ask a question based on the photo that I'm looking at on Facebook, and I'm sorry to interrupt. But
right.
Does this look like it's an actual device or part of something larger, or is it something that broke off of the outside of the ship? I mean, I'm looking at it, and I can't figure out what it is. I mean, for all the way it's looking, hell, for all I know, that might be the tip of their version of a nuclear warhead. I mean, I'm just trying to understand. Based on your skill set and your engineer background, what function did it serve when it was attached to something larger? I guess that's the best question.
Number one, we have no idea how big it started out at.
Okay.
Because it came back from back into the atmosphere, and it was under power, or was being forced eject. It was ejected from some kind of machine or something. There was intelligence behind the manufacture of this object. We know
Right.
it was manufactured outside of Earth's atmosphere because of the testing we've done on it.
Were you able to X-ray through it, or at least see through the entire object?
We haven't X-rayed it yet.
Okay, I'm just wondering, is it a solid object of the same material, or is there something else inside it?
Well, we don't know. I don't know that answer. We
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that
you haven't cut
the
through
end
it or
was cut. The flat end was cut off at Los Alamos. So that's a solid aluminum, or it's a solid inside.
Oh, okay,
And-
so it's a solid piece.
Yeah. You got to remember that this object, if you're looking at the picture on the website now, it's got flat ends, the top and the bottom are flat.
Right.
And people mistake that as, well, that's coming from a table underneath a grinding wheel or something like that has caused that.
Right.
The end was rounded, the tip, or the end, and the other end was pointed.
Right.
This was object was about 11.5 inches long. So, anyway,
Wow.
the flat spots on the object now are from testing that has been done at Los Alamos and other laboratories around the country.
Okay.
Los Alamos test itself called the object of unknown origin 19 times in their test.
Okay, I got to ask the next question then. How much of the object is not on the periodic table of elements?
Everything so far that we can find that's been identified and can be found on the periodic table, except for one test that NIDS did. The first test that they performed back in I think it was 96 or 97. All this stuff's running together now after 18 years. But that test showed 22 elements identified in it under their testing on a basic elemental test.
Right.
But you add the numbers up on what was found by them, there's a percentage missing. So either they missed something, their calculations are wrong, or there's an unidentified element.
Okay, so
object.
there is an unidentified element that's not on the periodic table.
Right.
According to that test, but see, we've had 14 different laboratory tests.
And they're all saying they're saying they found everything that's part of the actual object.
Well, we've got up to 33 elements now since then.
Okay.
You know, like I say, the first basic elemental. We never got a full list from Los Alamos, so we don't know what they found. But we know that they kept a piece and sold a piece of it.
Okay. Is there a percentage that's still missing that you're trying to figure out what else is it made out of? I guess that's the best question.
Again, like I said, we've had testing done everywhere, and none of the tests are exact on their findings. Every one of them is a little bit different.
Okay.
Why do you think that is?
You know, every lab there's not a consistent test that has ever shown.
That's bizarre.
Exactly the same thing from various machines. Now, I've got some testing that's going to be coming up here in Carolina. If I can ever get down there with enough money to make the trip, that we're going to do some basic elementals and X-ray diffraction tests again on the object. Now, the X-ray diffraction test we did in 2009 showed an amorphous peak, which is a polycrystalline element. It's very, very hard. It's not found in anything made in our aluminum manufacturing process.
Okay.
It ain't there, brother. You can't make it, and I'd like somebody to show me one. In fact, I've said from day one, all you have to do to debunk this case, make me one of these. Looks like. That's all you got to do. Just make me one that looks like Bob White object. That's all you got to do. You know what? Ain't nobody showed me one yet, made out of aluminum.
Now, when some of these scientists saw this thing, I mean, what was their reaction when they saw the elements that?
Have you ever seen a deer standing on the side of the road looking at the headlights? That's what you see. He said,
Okay, so does that mean you ran them over?
Yeah,
metaphorically speaking, I think he did.
Yeah, a couple of them I'd like to, believe me. But,
this is interesting.
We've been on a Tijuana two-step UFO dance on this thing since 1996.
Uh-huh.
And we've been ignored by the UFO community. We've been ignored by mainstream scientists. There's only been a couple of people that's really gotten on board with our testing. They're trying to figure out how to sit there that they could profit. I'll come straight out and say it. 98.7% of anything in the UFO community is BS.
Right.
It's crap.
Yeah. It's true.
And I'm sitting there showing you something that's real. You can see it, touch it, taste it, smell it, test it.
What do you think the UFO community has not embraced the story a little bit more? I mean, just because they want to make profit and they don't see profit, or I mean, of course, if it's a legit story, I mean, you would figure they'll want to do some documentaries and write books. And I know you got a book, right?
Well, you would think and you would hope, but doesn't mean they're actually going to do it.
Well, you would figure they would, but you got a book, right, Larry?
I can count on one hand the people who's helped us. John Greenwald Jr. was the first person that really got on board with us back in 2000. I met John on the internet when he was still a snot-nosed kid, still in high school. And he actually wrote us into his book, on his first book that he wrote, on why he started the Black Vault. And this case that Bob had, that we had at the museum, was a very credible case, and the reason why he had started the Black Vault. It was for people like us to do investigations. And from his research, he come up with a file from the United States Army, and was released in 2000 under the Freedom of Information Act. And that particular file is numbered 202085. It was on the Army Intelligence Corps, or Counterintelligence Corps. And in that file, there is a picture of an object recovered in Denmark in 1947, prior to Roswell. That looks exactly like Bob's object that was recovered in 1985 in Colorado. And
now, do you think this object or this thing, the material that you have, do you think this came from a crashed object, or I mean, how did Bob get his hands on this thing? Do you know? Okay,
Bob had the encounter in Colorado, a mile from the Utah state line over Route 6. They saw a bright light on the ground in the high desert at night. They coasted up on the object with the engine off in their car, and he climbed out of the car, and he's looking at this thing. And the gal he was with turned the headlights on. As soon as this happened, Bob described it in the blink of an eye. This 3-story light disappeared and took straight off up into the sky, connected with another neon tubular lights. We call them neon tubular lights. There was a flash.
Okay.
That object or light disappeared, and then the light that had shot up started coming back towards him. So it's all the scenario all starts on the ground and ends back at the same place. Now this object that came back cut a groove in the ground, hit on the side of the hillside. He followed the groove down into the ground, found the object was still glowing, went back to the car, got a brown cotton glove, went back, kicked it a couple of times. He told me, he said, well, no little green guys jumped out of it, so I picked it up with the glove. And they put it back in the truck car, and they took off. Now, Bob kept that hidden for 10 years because he was in show business, movies, music, had 3 albums out at the time.
Wow.
He was right on the verge of major entertainment hits. It just never quite got over that top edge. You know, back in the day, it was on the paywall and stuff. You had to pay the DJs to play your music, you know, to get it out and that kind of stuff. But he was a hell of a guitar player, singer. He was in several movies. He was in Blue Hawaii with Elvis. Did Butterfly with P.S. Adora.
Is he still around now, or has he passed already?
Oh, he passed in 2009.
Passed? Oh, okay.
And I believe he was killed.
What was the surrounding death?
Well, he had a little. His vehicle of choice was around here was a little tractor, little '95 tractor.
Okay.
And I've got the car here at the house right now. And the car was run into a ditch, or went into a ditch, and he was thrown out of it. Now, the damage on the car does not match it just being driven into a ditch on the passenger side, because the rear spare tire rack is shoved in at the back, and just about mid-high where a bumper would be on a large vehicle, it's shoved in on the side of the passenger, or on the driver's side. I think he was run off the road. I can't prove it, but I got his vehicle. And we had just done the UFO Hunters show about 2 weeks before that.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, boom, he's dead.
I wish Bill Burns was awake right now and we could have him on.
Bill was one of the interviews.
Yeah, and I produced a show for Bill, and I'd love to get his input on everything and have him on the air right now. But definitely, I'm going to bring this up on Future Theater next week. You definitely should be on Future Theater with Bill and Nancy and discuss this. Now, when Bob passed away, I mean, did anybody at all come forward and collaborate his story or anything? Has anybody come forward and collaborated anything that he told you about this object?
No, I've been involved with it ever since it started, since 1996.
Okay.
You know, I know everything there is to know about what we've done, what he did, the story. My book is basically a continuation of his book that he wrote in 2003.
Gotcha.
And one of the things, Bob didn't die right away. He hung in there for another. One of the toughest old guys I ever knew was Bob White. I guarantee you that he was a tough old bird, and he was not ready to go.
American made, baby. They don't
he'd been through 5 heart attacks.
Oh, wow.
And survived them all. And I picked him up from Barnes Hospital in St. Louis about 3 weeks before all this happened. After he'd been down there, had the Widowmaker plug, the main artery out of the heart. He'd taken him down and done a stent on that to open him back up again. And he was in great shape. The following day after I picked him up from the hospital, he's dead, or in the hospital again from a car accident.
Wow.
And it wasn't related to any of the operations or medical condition that he had. Nobody was witness to the accident. You're going uphill in a tractor, you're not exactly going to be making a blazing trail down the highway. You know anything about a tractor with 4 cylinders. They're not exactly a race machine.
Yeah.
Did he express to you any fear? The last few days, especially of his life, did he express any fear to you or any of his family members? That
No.
Fears for his life that somebody might be trying to kill him?
No, he wasn't worried about that. He was 79 years old at that time. He'd been through it, seen it all. And he wasn't too scared. He was a boxer in the Navy. He was undefeated boxer, little guy. And he's a little guy, too. He was like welterweight at the time. But he was quick. But, Bob White is a character. There's no doubt about it. And if you watch or listen to his interviews, you can tell it. And you can tell he's no nonsense about what he's talking about. And that's see, when Bob first told me this story, I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, right. This is BS. What are you trying to do? You're yanking my chain, man. This is not right. And then he shows me this thing. And then from there, I'm sitting there, okay, I see it. Now, what is it, and how was it made? That's what I'm thinking. I know from my background, my experience, I'm looking at this thing, how the hell did they make this?
I mean, at first, I'm sure you looked at this thing and you're like, it's just a piece of metal, Bob. Really?
That's not what I thought, because
that would be the first thing I would think. Somebody's trying to I'd be like, he's trying to pull one over on me. It's just a piece of metal.
It's the outside layering of this object.
That's
that
what
makes it totally unique in aluminum. You cannot, you will never, if you know anything about aluminum metallurgy at all, when aluminum melts in a molten condition, when it solidifies back, it's always rounded. You will never see a chad or a layer with spaces in between the layers on an aluminum, no matter what you do with it. You can't do it in an oxygen environment.
Right.
Now, you might be able to do it in an inert gas like argon or something like that. But in an oxygen environment, it's impossible. It can't be done. And that's why nobody's ever showed me another one of these, because they can't make one. They can't hoax it, they can't BS it, so they ignore it. You know, if you ignore somebody, they'll go away. Well, sorry, buddy, I ain't gone away. I'm still here. Bob didn't go away. He hung in there for the whole thing. We ain't going anywhere.
Larry, I think the thing here is really getting more scientists behind this thing that are credible and are looking into it in a scientific manner and are willing to stake their reputation on the record. I think that's the thing. You have to have somebody who is willing to put their reputation out there. Have you found that one person who says, have you even had that conversation with any scientist who has said, look, I'll put my reputation on the record if we can prove
we have scientists on record right now, mainstream scientists. Have a NASA.
Yeah, but I'm talking about going on TV and talking about this, because we haven't seen this on any mainstream TV shows, and this is where this belongs, really.
Well, yeah. First thing they're going to sit there and say is they're going to try and debunk the case.
Well, apparently, with the way you're telling me it's been reviewed and researched, the actual item itself, they can't debunk it.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing you get these armchair researchers, these guys on the internet, and Skeptic magazine. I got to bring this up. Skeptic magazine tried to do a debunk on this case. They had solved the Bob White case, and some idiot by the name of Eon Harrison out in Washington somewhere worked in a metal factory. He says, I've got hundreds of these things around in my front yard. I use them for decorations. What he says, I've got hundreds of them. What he's got is iron or steel. And I've got a couple of them myself just to show the difference between aluminum and iron or steel.
Can you actually make a mold of this?
You can't make a mold of it. No way. Can't be done. Now, it's possible now, maybe, with this new printer technology, if they've got 3D printer technology, you might be able to get something to look close to it. But to freeform, this was freeformed. It's not a mold. It's not a mold. It was ejected. It was in a molten condition in a vacuum environment, extremely high pressure, and it was ejected into a vacuum environment outside of Earth's atmosphere.
Interesting. Very
that's the facts to the case. Now, is it alien? I don't know.
Well, but do you think this is?
Yeah.
Do you think this is part of the ship that fell off? They just dropped this object. What part of the ship do you think this came from?
I think it's either a location device of some sort because it's sending out a signal, a readable signal, in two different frequencies. You can read it with an standard EMF meter, or a little bit not standard, but an EMF.
Now, is it actually giving off a signal, or can it be some type of harmonic resonance?
I don't know. As far as it's an EMF signal, electromagnetic signal, that tells me that
it's alive.
It's doing something.
Yeah, it's alive. Yeah.
And aren't you a little scared about that, Larry? I mean, if this thing is giving out a signal, aren't you scared?
If it's giving off a signal, there's got to be some power source in it, unless it's self-generating.
Well, if somebody comes here with my night vision cameras, will pick them up as they knock on the door.
Yeah, but I'm more afraid of the guys that come in UFOs and they don't knock; they just abduct you and you don't even know it. You're afraid that anything like that might happen because
it's going to be a hell of a gunfight go on before it's all over with.
Oh, I don't know, Larry. If you listen to some of the alien abductions, you ain't going to have time to get your gun, buddy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
I know what you're saying. I take that with a grain of salt. I know some people that are very credible that have told me stories about stuff. And I have no reason to doubt what they're saying. I haven't had any problems. I have seen something that I taped back in 2003 of a light in New Mexico that I can't explain. But that's the only real thing I've ever had happen to me.
So you've never had any peeping aliens through your window or anything like that? Yeah.
No, I haven't had any Romac problems. Nobody's knocked on the door. I've left messages several times that said their ET phone me. I've got your parts. but nobody's contacted me yet.
E.T., man, he's going to be mad when he figures out that he's missing that.
Yeah, you know, that's probably a spare tire or something. I don't know. You know, I can't tell you what it is. I can tell you what I think it was, which I think is either a location device or some kind of part of the propulsion system of the object or the light. A fuel cell, possibly.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's part of a propulsion system, why is it giving off a radio signal?
Well, that and how did it fall off the ship? I mean, that's
well,
they hit a pothole. Here it is.
They hit a pothole.
Yeah, they hit a pothole in space. It's called a black hole.
Yeah, I don't buy that one, Alan.
They had a rough spot bounced off
fine.
Mars and ricocheted off Uranus.
No. How about this one? They hit a light speed bump.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good too.
There you go.
You know,
it could be something else. Maybe hold on. Maybe it could be like a drone or something, or a piece of a drone. You think?
Well, other people have told that Tim Edwards.
Okay.
And Robert St. John. Tim Edwards shot the video out in Colorado, in Salida, of the cigar-shaped craft. Now we broke that video down with Tim's permission. And once we broke it down, it shows two neon lights stacked on top of one another, only in the daytime. You can actually see the space in between the two lights. Now, Robert St. John's was a DJ out in Colorado, 300 miles away. He saw the same thing, only he's seen it eject object into the side of the mountain. Now, he testified to that on radio, and we have it in our DVD also, that we did back in 2003, 2004. Interviews with both Tim Edwards and Robert St. John. Now, when you sit there and put all the circumstantial evidence together, this is not the first rodeo. There's been more than one incident.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now Benny Foggins in Ohio was just on. He's a friend of mine, and he recovered a piece of metal in his driveway after they had a little gunfight in the OK Corral in his backyard. His son shot a UFO in the backyard. A piece was shot off of it.
Oh, no kidding.
No kidding. And they've had that piece of metal to Phyllis Budinger, I believe it was her last name, if I'm pronouncing it right. She's a UFO scientist. They did testing on that, and the strontium reading does not match anything on Earth.
Aha.
It's an out-of-world experience as far as strontium in that object. The strontium in the Bob White object matches falls between two known Martian meteorites.
Interesting.
In its reading. Now, the Nick Pope, who is, the big deal in England with the Rendlesham.
Yeah, we know who Nick Pope is. Oh, yeah.
Nick, okay. Yeah. Now, Nick was at the UFO conference in Eureka Springs. I talked to Nick, and Benny was down there with me at my table this year. And Nick Ryder was in collaboration with me and Benny Foggins. And Nick passed away here just a while back, too. He had some samples from Rendlesham. Now, we now have those samples, too, Benny, myself.
I didn't know there were samples from Rendlesham.
Yeah, I say a lot of people don't know that. There was samples.
How'd they break it off if it was supposed to be one solid object?
It was ejected. The colonel said that. I can't think of the colonel's name, but the colonel has said that more than once. But there was metal samples recovered from that incident, and we have them, some of them. Now, all three of these samples, Bob White's object, Benny Foggins' object, and the Rendlesham Forest recovered material, all are sending out EMF signals. All were recovered from in-person type encounter of the third kind, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
In three different locations, thousands of miles apart.
Wow.
Now you start putting that picture together.
Yeah.
Bob's thing happened in 1985 in Colorado. Benny Foggins happened about 4 years ago in Ohio. And the Rendlesham was what 19... I can't remember the date on the Rendlesham stuff.
That was a while back.
Rendlesham was in the 80s, the early 80s.
Yeah.
Or okay, early 80s. So you got all these. You got three sightings, 3 different locations around the world. Aluminum. All the elements are very close. The Bob White elements, Benny Pauger's elements, and the Rendlesham Forest elements.
Mm-hmm.
So you got multiple cases with the same metal.
Right.
Basically the same metal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now, I'm not a rocket scientist. Don't claim to be. Don't have a scientific degree. But I do have common sense. And if that happened and the metal's the same, and you can't find a match to it on the planet, then
You do the math.
you know, why ain't you looking at this, dummies?
I wonder if this has, any connection or any correlation at all to the debris at Roswell. As you know, Jesse Marcel Jr. held the debris that Jesse Marcel Sr. picked up. And now the striking difference is, from what I'm taking here, Larry, you could actually break this material and cut pieces or shoot pieces off or whatever. That material, you couldn't really do that. If you try to break it, it will come right back together.
The chads on the outside, well, you can break a couple of them off, and we have. And there's been some pieces that have broken off over the years from being handled and this, that, and the other with the object. But as far as oxidation, most aluminum will oxidize the outside of it as it ages. This hasn't oxidized. It's still just as shiny today as the day Bob picked it up in 1985.
Now, Bob didn't say he saw any beings, so I didn't catch that if he said it, but he didn't see any beings, so he just saw the ship, right?
He just saw it. Well, he actually didn't see the ship. He described it as a bright light.
A light, right, bright light.
You know, unidentified flying light, I guess, would be the correct terminology. But there was no noise involved. He felt no heat. Yet we have soil samples collected from the site that show crystalline sand fused together from intense heat. Now, I have a scientist in Connecticut doing soil sample tests right now. He's been running right now for over a year. The soil sample tests show that multiple occurrences of neutron bombardment have happened in this area over the years. There's not just one, but there's been multiple occurrences of something happening right there at this spot. There is decayed radioactivity being the decay rate of the material that I sent him from what we recovered, and this was 3 different samples, 2003, 2006, and 2009, showed the same breakdown as the Fukushima nuclear reactor meltdown, only not as near as rich naturally.
So could this be the byproduct?
Which reactor? Which reactor did you say?
The tsunami in Japan.
Fukushima.
Yeah. So do you think this could be a byproduct of something like that, some kind of nuclear waste or disaster or something like that?
Well, we did bubble chamber tests on this. I did bubble chamber tests. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with what a bubble chamber is.
No idea.
Bubble chamber is a test tube, basically, with a very gelatin-like substance in it that reacts to radioactivity. Now, it's idiot-proof. This is what we use that the government uses on our borders. That's why it's idiot-proof, because most of the people working on the government are
idiots,
minimum wage idiots.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but how close do you have to be to something radioactive for it to react?
It depends on the amount, how high the level is. Now, I put 3 bubble chambers against the base of this object in 2003. I was doing some testing. I was going out to the...
Well, if this was in 2003, this obviously has nothing to do with Fukushima.
No, it
right?
It has nothing to do. This test. What I'm trying to explain how when a neutron hits this elastic polymer in this bubble chamber, a bubble appears. Now, the amount of radiation is consistent with the amount of bubbles that show up in the testing. If you look at my Pine Rest link I sent you, it shows pictures of those bubble chambers in front of the object.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Did you pull them up?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. And by the way, anybody who wants to follow along with what Larry's talking about here, once again, all this stuff is posted on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Skywatchers Radio. Larry, real quick, also tell the audience where they could follow along. I know that you have this on Pinecrest as well, right? Some of these images?
Well, yeah, my main site that I really run with now all the time is Museum of the Unexplained Aerial Anomalies Research Group on Facebook. We started out as UFO evidence, UFO hard evidence.
Right.
And which it actually is a business name as far as Missouri goes, UFO Hard Evidence LLC. But as far as for information that's going out all the time, Facebook is probably the best info. Either Larry Cekander at Facebook, Museum of the Unexplained Aerial Anomalies Research Group on Facebook, or UFO Hunters on Facebook.
I'm sure Bill will want some residuals on whatever you make.
Yeah, I think he might have something to say about that one.
You might want to talk to Mr. Burns after we hang up tonight, Larry. I'm just saying.
Hey, what can I say?
He's a good guy. He won't be too mad, I don't think. No, look, I'm looking at the object here now. The object of course, on UFO Hard Evidence. The main picture on the top there that you have as your background. That's the main object. It's a huge chunk of something. And then there's, of course, the slice piece on the bottom there.
Right.
This is a very weird-looking object, Larry. I mean, I can't think of what part of a craft this could be. Maybe this is some kind of exotic fuel that melts into some kind of a...
Could it be a torpedo?
Device?
How about
could
this?
Be.
How about this one? A magnetic railguns missile or torpedo.
Well, that's be a pretty good guess, maybe.
And the signal it's giving off is its tracking beacon.
Ah, interesting.
You know, but see, we're talking about 1985 technology, not 2014 technology.
Come on, we've had
railgun.
Wait a minute. The government's had railgun technology way back then, and we all know it.
Yeah. Well, they may have had technology, but it wasn't being used.
Well, Larry, come on. You know the old saying, the government's always a lot more advanced than they let on, and maybe 100 to 200 more years. So I'm pretty sure they had. Well, that's what they tell us. But I'd even go as far as say 80 to 100 years more advanced.
30 years when it comes to accounting and debt, but technology 300 years.
Perhaps,
well,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one.
Well, I'll tell you this much. From some of my encounters with some folks in the past, I can tell you that there is definitely advancements that they're making that is beyond our imaginations.
I have that I do not doubt.
Stuff that, Larry, if you see it, it looks like magic, man. It really does. It just looks like it's magic being performed in front of you, and it really is a technology that we just have no idea. Which, again, look, any advanced technology that comes from space, and I think Larry will agree with me on this, any technology that comes from space that we just can't understand is going to look like magic to us. Or some form of magic, like whatever this thing does. This could be a torpedo, a missile, part of fuel for all we know. This could be a byproduct of their waste. If this is from an alien ship, who the heck knows what this is? The point is,
alien poop.
It could be.
Well, it's been called that too. We have a couple of news stories. The alien artifact, the alien poop. Let's see. Well, with ET. Entertainment Tonight did a piece on us back in 2000. They called it the Alien Rock, and of course, we've the UFO hunters. We did UFO hunters and UFO files both, and then we did a Flame TV show back with Jane Goldman Presents. We were the main show on that, the main storyline on that.
Well, at least everybody agrees that it's alien at this point.
Yeah. Now, I hope it's not something like what happened in Joe Dirt, where he found this space rock and he thought it was
I'm
a
not
real
saying
alien
it's
piece.
don't confuse what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's an alien. I'm saying it's extraterrestrial. Now, it could be ours on something like you were just talking about that's flying out there that's ours, that this is ejected from. It could lie as a Zamora case.
Right.
You have a craft on the ground that disappears. You have physical evidence left behind. Again. Now, what was that? Was that NASA stuff? Was that government? Was that secret technology? Was that alien? We don't know what it is.
We don't know. I do think that the Zamora case could be some kind of government saucer or ship
I
that
think
he saw.
so. That's my case. That's my thinking, too.
I mean, just because he's a police officer doesn't mean that he knows what every aircraft that the government's working on looks like. He's a credible police officer. He did his job well, but he's not an expert on aerial technologies. And I'm pretty sure that's it. And look, if we did recover something at Roswell, and by the way, Roswell is the most famous case in ufology. What do you think of Roswell, Larry?
I think you can't prove it now.
Well,
there's no way. All the eyewitnesses are dead.
Pretty much, yeah.
No, they're the main eyewitnesses are all gone. There's never been physical evidence shown from the case ever, as far as still actually from that case.
Right.
Did something happen there? Absolutely. What happened there? I have no idea.
I think the best evidence, or it's not even evidence, it's just we have to take his word as Jesse Marcel and what he said. Just because of how credible of a person he was, but really, there really is no major evidence. But look, other than Roswell, which is like I said, probably the most famous case in ufology. I mean, this could be bigger than Roswell, what you have here, if it's looked at properly and studied properly.
Can I throw a theory out here, just out of as I keep on looking at all these images here? What's the possibility? I know this is going to sound a little bit off, but roll with me for a second. It is a metallic object, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's 95% or 85% aluminum.
If you took a tuning fork to it, it'll give off a harmonic frequency.
440
A. Okay.
I've already done that. I play music, guitar. I've got tuners and stuff around here.
All right.
So it resonates in 440.
Okay, now.
A.
Okay, here comes an interesting theory then. What if this is from some of the mining equipment that people are getting photographs of that are on the moon, and this is actually a real piece of moon rock or some derivative of a mining of moon rock? Because as they say, when Apollo 17 lifted off from the moon, they say that the moon rang like a bell for hours, which means which means it's metallic.
Yeah, but they wouldn't account for the light that Bob saw. It wouldn't account for any of that.
So you got to stick with the story. Now, Bob passed 4 polygraph tests of what he saw that night. Now, people say, well, anybody can pass polygraph tests. Well, as far as I know, and I've done a lot of checking, there's only 2 people in UFOlogy history that have taken polygraph tests and passed them. Travis Walton.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Bob White. That's
definitely not Bob Lazar.
Has he taken a polygraph test? I don't think he has.
I don't know.
I don't think he has.
Who is it?
Bob Lazar.
No, Lazar's never taken a polygraph test.
I don't think he hasn't. But look, Larry, if something did crash at Roswell, we have recovered some technology from there or from any time after Roswell. The government is probably been doing a lot of research on this stuff for many, many decades now, and are probably very, very, very advanced. So this could very well be terrestrial in nature and be from ancestry from extraterrestrial, from a past crash ship or something. But it could be very terrestrial now in nature, which would be interesting. That's why I asked if he saw any beings or anything like that, because if there's no sightings of any ETs, it could be anything, really. And there's so many different things that the government are working on that we really don't have any clue on whatsoever. But it's interesting that he did pass a lie detector test.
He passed 4 polygraph tests.
I did not know that. For them, that's incredible. I think really Travis is the only other person who's taken that many polygraph tests and passed.
Well, Travis took one, but all of his crew took it, and everybody in his
he's taken more than one. He's taken more than one. He's taken. Well,
he's taken more than one.
Yeah,
he's taken several. He's taken like 5 or 6 at this point. No, the only person, and it wasn't that he failed. It was Dallas. It was one person that. It wasn't that he failed. It came off as he was nervous on the polygraph. And it was erratic.
Everybody in his crew
Right.
pass the same polygraph test of what happened that night.
Right.
And it's like I said. Now Bob took one in front of live TV. Flame TV did it, and the polygraph examiner was a Grand Junction police officer, and we did that test in Fruita, Colorado. And I taped it myself with my own camera. Plus, it was on TV. Of the results, and no deception whatsoever in any of these polygraph tests by the examiners. That's exactly what they say. No deception, none. And I'd have trouble passing polygraph tests. Because I'm always afraid to say something. I got a lot to say in the history. I got a history.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how come no government is trying to steal this from you at this point?
Because unfortunately, nobody's paying attention now, and I think that's really the bottom line. Like,
let's see what happens tomorrow. If you
ignore the story, it will go away.
Yeah,
that's normal operating procedure. If you ignore a person, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't think the government is in the job of scaring people anymore. I think that was back in the 60s and 70s and 80s when the cover-up first started.
Men in brown coats, the CIC.
Yeah, look, the Men in Black phenomenon, you know what the Men in Black is? Secret Service, FBI.
FBI.
Yeah, there's I really doubt there's an organization like Will Smith.
Something from the alphabet soup. We'll just leave it at that. They're from the alphabet soup.
Exactly. But like, in all fairness, at this point, the government is not in the job of going out and scaring people or telling them, we're going to put you in the desert somewhere if you tell anybody what you saw, young lady. That stuff is just not going to happen anymore. Again, like Larry said, ignore it and people will just forget about it and it will go away.
Here, think about this for a second. Think about this for a second. The Vatican has just come out and said that they believe that alien life exists.
Yeah, but some priests won't baptize them.
Yeah, well, they're looking for more money.
Well, there you go.
Got to build another cathedral.
The aliens got to come down with the gold, and they got to give some gold to the Vatican. And
there you go. But that's big. That's a big story. That was just one little blurb there on the internet, and that's about all you heard from.
Here's the thing, though, Larry. I don't know what's a bigger story: the fact the Vatican came forward and said that, or the fact that the Vatican has a telescope named Lucifer. And
I forgot about that. Yeah,
up to the sky, and they're looking for Lucifer. Now, think about that for a second.
Yeah, well, I've got a history. What can I tell you? I'm on a first name basis with that fella.
Well, he's not a friend of mine, I'll tell you that much. But look, Larry, let me ask you a question here, because look, we've talked about this on the show many times in the past, where we've asked guests to give us their insight of what they think is really going on with ufology. And I want to hear, what you really think is going on with not only ufology, but also you think it's tied into religion at all? Because my point of view is that it's all tied in. And throughout the history, whether we've been manipulated like they say or not, I do think there's been misinterpretations to visitations from extraterrestrials. And we've interpreted as gods, demons, ghosts and all kinds of other things when it's been interactions with ETs that we have had in our own past. That's my personal take. What's your take on the entire phenomenon?
Well, if you read the Bible from Genesis through it,
right.
Old Testament is the biggest UFO story ever written.
This is true.
Everything happened in the Old Testament had something to do with lights, burning bushes, chariots of fire, Sodom and Gomorrah. We're talking major UFO stuff going on here. Sound of the trumpets and the planes falls, everything falls down.
Even Noah's story, like he builds a ship. It's a boat, but it could be a ship. It could be anything. We don't really know what kind of boat he built. It could be a UFO. Larry.
But you got your Sumerian text, your Quran. It's all basically the same stories that have been rewritten by man to serve man, but the stories are basically all the same.
Right.
You have caveman drawings of unidentified flying objects on their walls above their little animals, antelopes and stuff. Now, this didn't start yesterday or in 1947 in Roswell. Mm-hmm. This has been going on since recorded time. So who is it? What is it? I can't tell you that. I don't know. You know, I'm leaning towards extraterrestrial contact. That's what I lean towards. But until I see the little feller there knocking on the door wanting his part back, I'm going to sit there and say, you know, what's up, Doc? You know?
Exactly. Here's an idea, though, and I'll throw this one your way and see if it makes any sense at all as a possibility. What if the aliens that we're encountering or people are claiming to see are beings that once lived on this Earth, left the planet, were advanced maybe 1 billion years ago, because the planet's been around for 4 billion years, at least, that we know of. 4.5, right? So it's been around for a while.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's say, advances have happened several times. Races have come and gone. It's very possible that humanoid or human-looking or humans have been on this planet for more than 2,000 years, as the Bible lets you believe. No, we've been around for a lot longer, maybe even millions and millions of years. Who knows? So who's not to say that maybe a race, 1 million years ago, 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, 2 million years ago, 1 billion years ago, didn't get technologically advanced and left the planet. And then they came back, and now the planet's ran by monkeys and Neanderthal man, and what the heck is going on? And that's where they started intervening. But they were from this planet originally. Do you think that's a possibility?
I don't know why it couldn't be.
Too many possibilities.
It makes sense, though. If you think about it, it makes sense on their curiosity with the planet. I mean, why else would an advanced race from like Alpha Centauri or another galaxy out there care about this planet?
Put a map of the solar system up on the wall and throw a dart.
Yeah, exactly.
It could not be. Who knows? Where the dart sticks. If it's in Pluto, it's not a planet, so nobody can be there. And of course, it was a planet when I was growing up, but it's not a planet anymore. Guess it's too small. It wasn't in the right neighborhood or something. I don't know. It didn't belong to the homeowners association for that area.
By the way, I'm still upset about the whole Pluto thing. I want Pluto back.
Pluto. I like Pluto with Disney, and I like Pluto out there on the last planet.
I grew up with Pluto as part of the family, man, and I'm upset that they've taken Pluto away from me. I do not like it. Let me tell you one thing, Larry. You mess with my planets, and there's going to be hell to pay. Listen, stay right there. We're going to be back in a couple minutes here. We have to take a commercial break. If you guys want to join in after the break, do so. We're going to have open lines for the rest of the hour. It's 2 ways to get to us. You know the ways. Phone number 786-245-8127, and you can Skype us by looking up PSN Radio. We'd love to hear from you if you guys are listening, and there's a lot of people listening in tonight, Larry, so I hope they call in and ask away anything they want to ask.
I advertised a lot,
I know you did. You went crazy. I saw that. It was awesome. I was like, I wish every guest would do that. Every one of them.
We don't just need audience participation. We need guest participation as well.
Now, you've been on a lot of talk shows in the past, haven't you not? What's some of the shows you've been on, some of the big ones?
I haven't been on any big ones myself.
Nobody's booked you out? Because I know you said that people are staying away. None of the big ones wanted to touch you, right?
I say let's get them on Oprah.
We've been ignored
That'd
in
be
the
great.
community from day one. Bob did quite a few radio interviews back after we put an ad in Antiques and Collectibles in the Springfield News Leader newspaper.
Uh-huh.
And a for sale UFO object for $11 million. For sale underneath Antiques and Collectibles. Well, somebody saw that. One of the radio shows from around, I guess all they do is just look for idiotic stuff in the newspaper. What we did it for was for
sounds like us here on the show.
It was to advertise the museum that we had opened.
Mm-hmm.
It was a museum of the unexplained, where we had this thing on display, and we were a 501c3 research organization. We had a NASA scientist as our director. Former NASA scientist.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? What's the scientist's name from NASA?
Robert Gibbons, Dr. Robert Gibbons.
Okay.
He was our director. In fact, I sent you a video of him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you did.
Where he's explaining the radiation testing that we did, our first X-ray stuff that we did with the object, where we got X-ray exposures on dental film from the bottom of the object. Now, that's something that shouldn't have happened either. We had directed exposures on dental X-rays, and X-rays do not direct; they scatter. That's why you get a picture of a tooth or something. Yet we had pinpoint, like laser pointer type exposure on this film. You know, you don't see that. And again, the bubble chamber tests I did showed the fast neutron, gamma, and beta coming from the object, and low radiation, but it's there. It was identifiable still in the object. We had the soil sample tests from where the object was recovered, and if it happened, that shows radioactive decay from the object. We have soil samples that's fused from where the light was seen, still there. It's just all these things from where we started, the basic test to where I'm at today, and with the people I've got together with me now, show that this thing did not fall off your grandpa's 52 Buick. It's not the bumper guard. This thing ain't from our neighborhood.
It could be somebody's Buick, but it ain't from this neighborhood.
It may be from Al Alien's Buick.
Yeah.
From Alpha Centauri, but it ain't from Detroit, I guarantee you. And like I said, all you got to do, all anybody's got to do, make me one of these. Just make me one.
Just one.
Show me how you did it, and hey, I'll go away. That's all you got to do. So everybody get busy out there in your garage and make me one.
I'd like to see somebody try, honestly. I mean,
I'd like to see somebody try, too.
It's an incredibly bizarre-looking object. I don't know how anybody could manufacture this thing. You definitely have something strange here and unique, Larry. I mean,
it's unique. Like I said, it's alien, I don't know. Is it extraterrestrial? Yes, it is. The testing shows that it's been bombarded by cosmic radiation. You can't get bombarded from cosmic radiation as intense as what this has been bombarded with. It shows the tendencies of an aircraft that's been flying at high altitude for many years, like your Boeing 747s and stuff that fly at high altitude. They have to retire them after 30 to 40 years because the radioactivity surrounding the passengers is too high for them to fly.
Larry, do you think this is a fair statement, though, or a fair question that this could possibly be something that we just haven't found on Earth yet, but it is part of Earth somewhere? Look, we're finding life all the time on Earth in places we never thought of, and strange and exotic life. So what's that to say? Maybe there's some. Yeah. What's that to say? We don't have some kind of elements or metals that we just haven't seen before, and maybe he just so happened to get his hands on something that is really exotic and just weird, so weird that we really would look extraterrestrial to any scientist testing it, you know?
No, there's no way. Like I said, show me another one. There's no way, Jose, are you going to sit there and show me another one of these unless it's the one the government recovered in 1947 in Denmark. Now, that exists. I have a scientist that said on record.
1947 again. You said 1947 in Denmark?
1947, but before Roswell, was prior to Roswell.
Okay.
There was a piece of metal recovered in Denmark, and it looks exactly like the Bob White object, right down to the little pinpoint little hook on the end of it when you match them side by side. The first time I seen those pictures, I thought somebody was trying to sit there and debunk us right away on this case, because the danged object looked, it's a mimeograph copy. It's not a picture. It's a mimeograph copy of a copy. But you can see the shape and the identifying little point that match exactly Bob's object before it was cut. That's amazing, and now for that to jump up after 4 years or 5 years, again, John Greenwald and Clifford Stone both got those Freedom of Information Act papers at the same time. Mm-hmm. I was looking at Clifford Stone's papers at the Roswell Museum because we were having the objects out there for display during Roswell week at the museum. The director showed these to me when I walked in because I was doing security for the deal, and I was there 2 days ahead of when Bob and John, our other guy who was with us at the time, was going to be blowing in. And as soon as I seen this picture on the cover on the cover page of this file number 202085, says, alleged material recovered from Denmark flying saucer. Now, they never used flying saucer in 1947, as far as I know. I remember
Kenneth Arnold's the first
Kenneth
person.
Arnold is where that came from.
Right. He coined the term, yeah.
He coined the term. But this is 1947, 3 years or 2 years before Kenneth Arnold's sighting. They got flying saucer written across the cover page of a government CIC declassified file from 1947.
That's interesting. I never heard that before.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And once it's stuck, it's stuck.
You start putting all these pieces, these little pieces together, it forms a hell of a story. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's a hell of a story. 1 item, 2 items, 3 items. I don't believe in coincidence. Not 40 times. I don't believe in coincidence.
No.
There's a plan going on somewhere.
Yeah, Larry. So, I mean, what is your plan now coming up in the near future here? What's your plan with this object? I mean, what's the next step again?
I'm still pushing more tests. I want an isotope abundance ratio test done on this object.
Okay.
In chromium. That's a definitive test that if the chromium isotopes are either Earth or someplace else. And chromium in outer space is different from chromium on Earth, on the isotope readings. And that's a definitive as far as that test goes. But that's a high-dollar test. It's done what's called wet chemistry. And that's where you have to break a piece down until it's total natural state, and all you have left isolated out is the chromium. Then you run your test on your isotopes. And like I say, that's a high-dollar test. There's only 2 or 3 labs in the world that can do this test. So that's where that stands right now. We're talking about some bucks, or somebody wants to do a freebie to prove it one way or the other.
Yeah,
it doesn't prove whether it's alien or extraterrestrial again.
Right.
What it does, it either will show another extraterrestrial signature in it, what I've already got, or it won't. But I've already got extraterrestrial signatures already identified in this object. So it's
here's a question. Here's a question. Have you thought of contacting anybody that does research in alien implants? Because I mean, that's an area that they might be able to help you out big time.
Oh, Daryl Sims is a friend of mine. He's the only other person in the world that has a piece of this object. Okay. Me. And Daryl's got it down in Texas.
Gotcha.
He's been involved with us since 2003, and he's one of the few people that I actually trust in the field with this object, with a piece of this object. And because he's got thousands or hundreds of objects. So, I've got a couple other people in the background now getting ready to get on board. I can't say who they are right at the moment because we're getting ready to do a meet up here in August and see what we can get done as far as some more testing goes. I don't want to sound like this is a cloak and dagger deal, but it's just something that we're just getting into.
But it kind of is, though. If you think about it, I mean, this is space.
Cloak and dagger, smoke and mirrors. Keep the secret.
No, you can't. But you kind of have to. I mean, you kind of look. This is what science is, man. You got to figure out what it is before you put it in the public,
right?
And let the whole world know.
The people I'm getting involved with right now are serious investigators, well known in the UFO community, and I want them to verify what I've got before I mention who we're dealing with.
Right, exactly. Now, once this is verified, if it is verified, Larry, I mean, what's the next step after that? What's your intentions?
Be a news conference.
Okay.
That's what will happen next. There will be a major news conference, and this will be broke to the public, and it can't be ignored then. But again, see, you got to take it one step at a time. I've been at this now for 18 years.
Wow.
That's how long I've been involved in this. Now, anybody had told me in 1990 that I had anything to do with UFOs, aliens, extraterrestrial, or anything that goes bump or bang in the night, I'd told them to get off crack and seek help immediately. Now I'm right up to my eyebrows in it. I mean, I'm looking for the answer. I want to know what this damn thing is. I want to know. I want to know where it came from, how it was made, and who made it. That's what I want to know.
Has anybody put it through the mass spectrometers yet?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've done all that basic stuff. Like I said, the X-ray diffraction test is the one that is the kicker. That's the one
Can you
that
carbon date this composite aluminum, whatever?
No, we haven't done that. Nobody's done that yet. We've gone through SEMs, X-ray diffraction.
Is that in the plans, though? Because, I mean, that would be interesting as hell. Imagine if it's thousands of years old or something.
Well, that would be really cool, too, if we could get that done. Again, we're talking about money. It takes money to do these tests, or you got to get somebody that's interested that has access to the
Here's an idea for you.
Do the tests.
Here's an idea for you, Larry, and you might want to run with this. Kickstarter.
Yeah, that could definitely generate some income.
Yeah, no, look. There's a documentary there they're making about a Superman movie that never happened. A Tim Burton Superman directed movie, and that's got this dude like I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars already on Kickstarter. This is much more important than that documentary. This, like I said, is a game changer if proven. I mean, Larry, have you thought of that at all as an avenue going through Kickstarter or Indiegogo?
No, I know what Kickstarter is. First thing about it, you got to remember who you're dealing with here. I'm a mechanic. I'm a certified master mechanic. You know, I'm a hands-on guy.
So super tech savvy isn't working for you.
I don't have a degree in astrophysics. You know, I've never been in a planetarium, looked through a telescope. You know what I'm saying? You know.
So I get you, but I'm sure in your travels you must have like bumped heads with people that, or made friends with people that are a little technologically savvy on this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, that's the people we try to surround ourselves with when we opened the museum. We wanted scientists.
Right.
Now, Bob White was a musician and entertainer. You know, he was an actor. He was a stunt man. 50 years in the business. You know, now he knew people in Hollywood. You know, he performed with people. You know, he knew some big people, but we could never quite. It seemed like just about the time something was going to pop, somebody would die.
Seriously, or natural causes?
Natural causes. I mean, you got to remember, Bob. We're talking about people. I'm 67. You know, I ain't no spring chicken myself. You know, believe me, I've fallen off the bike more than once. But I'm still basically pretty good shape still. Other than my smoking, I smoked for too many damn years, and it quit.
Yeah, but look, Bob, Larry, like Bob, you know, you're not going to be eternal either. You know, this is something that you're already 18 years deep into this research.
Right.
You know, it's time to like get the ball rolling a little quicker and see what we have here. I think Kickstarter, one of these websites that can help raise the money needed, is an excellent way to go. Not only that, the exposure this thing will get on the internet. I mean, are you kidding me? Possible proof of extraterrestrial life. This will get huge exposure.
We've been on the internet. I've been on the internet since 2000. Well, actually, we've been on the internet before that.
Yeah, but Kickstarter is a relatively new thing, though. This is a relatively new type of website. And again, you said that the financing is the biggest hurdle. Well, this is an avenue for you to figure out the financing, because that's what Kickstarter does. That's the whole purpose of it, to get financing for projects and different things that are important, whether it's a movie, documentary, or something like this, scientific study, which could lead to a documentary. Look, that's another thing you could do. You could film a documentary about the discovery and about the scientists, researching this thing. There's so many different avenues that you could go with here.
Now, when we did a DVD ourselves, movie documentary back in 2003, it went. I think we sold 24 copies. Yeah, I'm not exactly getting rich.
Well, but you didn't have the type of exposure we're talking about here. That's the thing.
Well, again, if you type in UFO evidence, the first thing that pops up is my website or Bob's name now in most search engines. We're in the top 25, I guarantee you, on the internet. I've had 11 million and some odd hits. Let me see. I don't know exactly how many I've had on there on the original website. We've had on UFO our UFO Evidence Conform site. I've had, where is it? Can't find it on the counter.
Well, even if it's in the
over
millions,
11 million people.
yeah, but even if it's in the millions, I mean, that's for like what the whole time you've had the website up. But think about this: you know how many millions of people daily go through Kickstarter and is streamed all over the internet. I mean, literally, the Kickstarter accounts they post for you. Hey, this person has this Kickstarter. You might want to check it out, and it literally like spams your own Kickstarter out to other people. So again, just throwing it out there. Think about it. I know you said that monetary.
I'm up for anything that will sit there that will get me into a laboratory. I'm on SSI. I'm retired.
You see what I'm saying?
Income now because of my health, because I can't work. I'm still out there scrapping here and there, whatever. I'm living. I'm getting by. It ain't a biggie.
You're getting what you can when you can.
Correct.
Exactly. You do what you do. You do what you can do.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm about. That's the way I've always been. I've never been a slacker. I worked hard all my life, and I've worked. I've shoveled crap in a cow barn to working in a bomb factory. I've done it all somewhere down the line. But I worked in a napalm bomb factory in San Diego back in the '60s. I worked in fertilizer plants. I worked on cow farms. I've done a little bit of everything. I play music. I play guitar and sing. 40 years at that. Me and Bob played together. Bob was a hell of a musician. I don't claim to be even close to what he was.
Wow.
But I could hold my own.
Larry, question here, and this is coming from somebody in the Facebook. They want to know: do you have a contingency plan for when you do get older and somebody, if this hasn't been looked at properly yet, let's say in the next couple of years, 5, 10, 15 years, however long it is there a contingency plan on who this would go to? Next.
The object, when something happens to me, will go to John Greenwald Jr.
All right.
Okay.
I know
John. John will continue what I've started and what me and Bob started. But
Okay.
John knows this. I already told John this a long time ago. Because I've had some health issues a couple of times, and after the UFO conference back here in April this year, I almost died a couple of days later from an ulcer, which I didn't know I had. I was bleeding out the whole time I was at that UFO conference.
Wow.
And I ended up in the emergency room. I was about a half hour away from the pearly gates and organ music.
Oh my.
But I've come through that all right. But
I'm glad you made it through, and I'm glad you're here tonight, Larry.
well, I'm glad I made it through too. I wasn't ready to meet St. Peter quite yet.
No, you still have to get the story a little further out there. Unfortunately, we're almost out of time here tonight. We're running already close to the edge of the hour here, and I really want to give you a couple minutes to give out your website addresses again. Tell everybody how they can find you. Follow your research, your work on this thing. Give everybody the addresses one more time before we go off air with you.
Okay, our original old site is ufoevidence.conforums.com. Our research group is the Museum of the Unexplained Aerial Anomalies Research Group on Facebook.
Excellent.
Or you can contact me at Larry Cekander on Facebook. Or they can sit there and, let's see. Well, that should cover it. If you want to buy my book, which has everything that we know up to now, other than a couple of things that will be added here shortly and add them in the book, you can go to Galdi Press. You can only go as far as you push. The Bob White Legacy, that's my book.
What about ebooks for downloading?
Let's see, I believe it is on Amazon now. I think Bill has told me that.
Oh,
Very
excellent.
cool.
Where it can be purchased online.
Very cool. Larry, it's been a fascinating hour and a half with you, man. I really enjoyed having you on the show, and really would look forward to having you back on in the future.
Absolutely,
especially
yes.
if you can get scientists to look at this thing and they could figure out and crack the code and unravel the secret of what this thing is. That would make a heck of a great radio show. So please come back and visit us again.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I've enjoyed it. Been a hoot and holler. And if anything comes up, and you're on my Facebook friends, I'll sit there and shoot you an email.
Excellent. So if we can't interview you, we're going to add you into the news the next time we talk about you.
There you go.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
Larry, don't be a stranger. We definitely have to have you back on. Loved having you on. Take care. Have a great night, sir. That, ladies and gentlemen, was Larry Cekander. And Alan, really interesting stuff, man. That object at the end is... I mean, I'm flabbergasted by just the thought that this thing could prove everything that we've been talking about here, and it has not been looked at seriously by the mainstream science, mainstream media.
Who do we got to kill? Who do we got to call?
Seriously. And yet, if Justin Bieber does anything, it's all over the media. That's what sickens me about the media.
I know. We got to call your friend Gregorio, whatever the heck his name is.
Who?
What's his name with the hair from Ancient Aliens?
That's Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Giorgio.
Tsoukalos, whatever. Yeah, a dude with a wacky hair. I love him. He's cool. He always says everything that Eric Van Daniken has said in the past. But.
It either get to him or, honestly, now that I think about it, if it's giving off some type of radiation, maybe we should reach out to Stanton Friedman on this one.
Definitely. Shout outs to Stanton Friedman also, who had a heart attack not long ago and is recovering from his illnesses, and he's doing a lot better from what we heard.
Excellent. Best wishes to him.
On Future Theater, yeah. Best wishes to Stanton Friedman. One of the good guys, man. I love Stanton Friedman. I love talking to that man. So we definitely want to have him on here when he's feeling up to it. It's sad that we've lost so many people in the last few years in ufology. So many important people in ufology, like Jesse Marcel Jr. and Dr. Roger Lear.
Yeah, but there are new ones coming along the way each and every day.
Yeah, but the problem is some of the new ones might not be in it for the same reason that some of the old.
True.
You know what I mean? Lloyd Pye, for example, that man gave his soul to what he was working on, and literally gave his life for his research. And look, he put his research over his health a lot of times, and it caught up to him, and it's happened to a lot of folks. And look, Larry's not gonna be around forever either. Larry, he has health issues, and one day he's gonna pass. And I would hate for this object to float around from person to person and never get the deserved attention that it should get, and the scrutiny from science that it deserves, and for them to really research this thing. It's an amazing thing. Again, if you guys want to do more homework on them, check out our website, skywatchersradio.com. The podcast would be there within the next 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes around there after we're off the air. Podcast will be on there for your download pleasures. So please do that. Join the website, skywatchersradio.com. And check out all our social media stuff, Facebook, Twitter, everything. Just go through there. All the links are on there. And follow us into our next adventure next week, when we will be back on Skywatchers Radio. And hopefully this time we start with Alan's Wi-Fi no more. Hotspot from now on. Are we good with that? Hotspot from now on for Alan. And guys, again, come back next week. We'll be back live right here on the Dark Matter Radio Network. And next week, Jason Martell will be our guest. Love having Jason Martell on the show. He's a great, great guest. So again, for everybody on Dark Matter Radio Network, for Keith Rowland, the overlord of the network, for my co-host Alan Weiler, who's over there playing with something. I don't know what the heck he's doing. This is Skywatchers Radio. I am Angel, and we will be back next week. By the way, keep listening. There's a lot more really, really good content on Dark Matter Radio Network. Really great shows. Stick around. Don't just tune off. Don't just leave for the evening. Keep listening. And remember to check out Jimmy Church on Dark Matter Radio Network and Future Theater also every week. Good night, everybody. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Dark Matter Radio Network and PSN Radio's Skywatchers Radio. Again, this is Angel and Alan and our guest of the evening, and his name is Larry, and your last name, how do you pronounce it, sir? Because I know I butchered it earlier.
Cekander.
Cekander! I was so far away from that.
Yeah, just the way it looks, Cekander.
This is why we always tell Angel don't quit his day job.
No, that's why this is my night job, folks. Larry, it's a pleasure to have you on Skywatchers Radio, man. This is a few weeks in the making. I know we've had to kind of move around a little bit and make a perfect date to have you on. But love the stuff you sent me. The links have been very, very interesting stuff. Like me and Alan were talking about before the show. This could be a game changer, man. Like if this could be verified to be legit. On an extraterrestrial artifact, this could change the entire platform of everything. Now, for the listeners listening in who don't know the backstory to this thing, because we don't like to tell the backstory, because then what's the use of having the guest on, right? So we're very vague early on. We say, hey, he's got good stuff. Now, when you listen, I want them to listen to you and tell your story. Tell us the backstory of how you came to the possession of this artifact, and what exactly is the artifact as we know it right now.
Okay. In 1996, I retired, or semi-retired, moved down to Missouri, and near Branson on Table Rock Lake, and I met a guy by the name of Bob White. He's wanting to buy a boat from me. I was in the boat business, and I had a used boat, and he's wanting to buy a boat, and I was wanting to sell one. He wanted to trade. We was doing a little hustling around. He never bought the boat. He used my boat forever, and we become great friends. I had seen his show on History Channel with Stan Friedman, over the Roswell deal that he had broken. Okay. And I was really impressed about that show, and I really didn't think a lot about UFOs, aliens, or anything else, My big concern is how big was the catfish out of the lake that I was going to catch. That was what I was worried about.
So you were never into the subject, just to clear that up. You never really...
have you ever seen a deer sitting on the side of the road looking at the headlights? That's what you see. He said,
okay, so does that mean you ran them over?
Yeah,
metaphorically speaking, I think he did.
Yeah, a couple of them I'd like to, believe me. But,
this is interesting.
We've been on a Tijuana two-step UFO dance on this thing since 1996.
Uh-huh.
And we've been ignored by the UFO community. We've been ignored by mainstream scientists. There's only been a couple of people that's really, really, really gotten on board with our testing. They're trying to figure out how to sit there, they could profit. I'll come straight out and say it. 98.7% of anything in the UFO community is BS.
Right.
It's crap.
Yeah. It's true.
And I'm sitting there showing you something that's real. You can see it, touch it, taste it, smell it, test it.
What do you think the UFO community has not embraced the story a little bit more? I mean, just because they want to make profit and they don't see profit, or of course, if it's a legit story, I mean, you would figure they'll want to do some documentaries and write books. And I know you got a book, right?
Well, you would think it, you would hope, but doesn't mean they're actually going to do it.
Well, you would figure they would, but you got a book, right, Larry?
I can count on one hand of people who's helped us. John Greenwald Jr. was the first person that really got on board with us back in 2000. I met John on the internet when he was still a snot-nosed kid, still in high school. And he actually wrote us into his book, on his first book that he wrote, on why he started the Black Vault. And the case that Bob had, that we had at the museum, was a very credible case, and the reason why he had started the Black Vault. It was for people like us to do investigations. And from his research, he come up with a file from the United States Army, and was released in 2000 under the Freedom of Information Act. And that particular file is numbered 202085. It was on the Army Intelligence Corps, or a Counterintelligence Corps. And in that file, there is a picture of an object recovered in Denmark in 1947, prior to Roswell. That looks exactly
into UFOs, ufology, aliens. That wasn't like your thing.
No, not my thing. I'm a pretty basic redneck son of a gun and running around. What you see, what you get. If I say something, that's pretty much what I think. And I never really thought about aliens or UFOs or any of that kind of stuff. And like I said, I'd seen the show on History Channel with Friedman. So the next morning, me and Bob always ate breakfast together in the mornings. I'm down at the restaurant, and I'm sitting there. Hey, Bob, I said, boy, you should have seen this show I seen last night with aliens and bodies and spacecraft and all kinds of stuff. He's sitting there stuffing his face full of food. He said, hell, that ain't nothing. I got a piece of one over at the house. I'm saying, yeah, Bob, right. You got a piece of a UFO at your house. He says, yeah, I got it in the closet. Well, hell, that's where
doesn't everybody in the South? I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I keep my piece of UFOs in the closet.
Yeah, I got an alien head in my closet.
This sounds like a great deal to me. So anyway, after breakfast, I said, man, I don't want to see this. I know this. You're yanking my chain. So I go over to the house. He goes there in the back bedroom, comes out carrying a gun case. I said, okay, well, he has gone over the edge and now he's going to shoot me. Anyway, he opens this thing up.
There's horror movies that start this way, by the way.
Yeah, the
Larry,
horror movie starts like this. It's quiet, and a real quiet, white-haired guy with a beard.
Yeah, I'm hearing the Jaws theme in the background,
Yeah, I hear the Jaws theme, right. He pulls this gun case out, unzips it, and he pulls out this object. And it looks like, to me, like a teardrop or a pine cone.
Okay.
Only it was metal, and I knew, because of my background in mechanics and metallurgy and stuff over the last 40, 50 years, doing master mechanic, and I'd done high-performance work on engines. I knew this was an alloy aluminum of some sort as soon as I saw it. But the layering on the outside is what I couldn't figure out.
Okay, now I got to ask a question based on the photo that I'm looking at on Facebook, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but does this look like it's an actual device or part of something larger, or is it something that broke off of the outside of the ship? I mean, I'm looking at it, and I can't figure out what it is. I mean, for all the way it's looking, hell, for all I know, that might be the tip of their version of a nuclear warhead. I mean, I'm just trying to understand. Based on your skill set and your engineer background, what function did it serve when it was attached to something larger? I guess that's the best question.
Number one, we have no idea how big it started out at.
Okay.
Because it came back from back into the atmosphere, and was under power, or was being forced ejected. It was ejected from some kind of machine or something. There was intelligence behind the manufacture of this object. We know It was manufactured outside of Earth's atmosphere because of the testing we've done on it.
Were you able to X-ray through it, or at least see through the entire object?
We haven't X-rayed it yet.
Okay, I'm just wondering, is it a solid object of the same material, or is there something else inside it?
Well, we don't know. I don't know that answer. We
know. Yeah, but
the end was cut. The flat end was cut off at Los Alamos. So that's a solid aluminum, or it's a solid inside.
Oh, okay. So it's a solid piece.
Yeah. You got to remember that this object, if you're looking at the picture on the website now, it's got flat ends, the top and the bottom are flat.
Right.
And people mistake that as, well, that's coming from a table underneath a grinding wheel or something like that has caused that.
Right.
The end was rounded, the tip, or the end, and the other end was pointed.
Right.
This was object was about 11.5 inches long. So, anyway, the flat spots on the object now are from testing that has been done at Los Alamos and other laboratories around the country.
Okay.
Los Alamos test itself called the object of unknown origin 19 times in their test.
Okay, I got to ask the next question then. How much of the object is not on the periodic table of elements?
Everything so far that we can find that's been identified and can be found on the periodic table. Except for one test that NIDS did, the first test that they performed back in, I think it was 96 or 97. All this stuff's running together now after 18 years. But that test showed 22 elements identified under their testing on a basic elemental test.
Right.
But you add the numbers up on what was found by them, there's a percentage missing. So either they missed something, their calculations are wrong, or there's an unidentified element.
Okay, so
object.
there is an unidentified element that's not on the periodic table.
Right.
According to that test, but see, we've had 14 different laboratory tests.
And they're all saying they're saying they found everything that's part of the actual object.
Well, we've got up to 33 elements now since then.
Okay.
You know, like I say, the first basic elemental, we never got a full list from Los Alamos, so we don't know what they found, but we know that they kept a piece and sold a piece of it.
Okay, is there a percentage that's still missing that you're trying to figure out what else is it made out of? I guess that's the question.
Again, like I said, we've had testing done everywhere, and none of the tests are exact on their findings. Every one of them is a little bit different.
Okay.
Why do you think that is?
You know, every lab there's not a consistent test that has ever shown.
That's bizarre.
Exactly the same thing from various machines. Now, I've got some testing that's going to be coming up here in Carolina, if I can ever get down there with enough money to make the trip, that we're going to do some basic elementals and X-ray diffraction tests again on the object. Now, the X-ray diffraction test we did in 2009 showed an amorphous peak, which is a polycrystalline element that's very, very hard. It's not found in anything made in our aluminum manufacturing process.
Okay.
It ain't there, brother. You can't make it, and I'd find somebody to show me one. In fact, I've said from day one, all you have to do to debunk this case, make me one of these. Looks like. That's all you got to do. Just make me one that looks like Bob White object. That's all you got to do. You know what? Ain't nobody showed me one yet, made out of aluminum.
Now, when some of these scientists saw this thing, I mean, what was their reaction when they saw the elements